Good day everyone, we are the Team 5, which will tackle the physiologic changes in aging affecting hematopoietic and lymphatic. The hematopoietic system is formed by bodies responsible for hematopoiesis, or the production of the cellular elements of blood, the red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelets. During embryonic development, this function is performed mainly in the spleen, liver, and bone marrow, and after the birth, the production of these elements is performed mainly by the bone marrow and the lymph nodes. The cellular elements supply oxygen, the red blood cells, initiate coagulation, platelets, and protect against microbes and antigen, which are the white blood cells. The normal function of hematopoietic is it allows the body to continuously renew red blood cells, platelets, and white blood cells in the blood. In this way, the organism can always have the elements of the blood that it needs available, even if these have a well-defined lifetime. In fact, the red blood cells, which allow the transport of oxygen to the tissues and carbon dioxide to the lungs, have a lifespan of about 120 days, after which they must be replaced. Other elements, such as the neutrophils, live much less than after 6 hours, they need to be replaced by new such elements. The entire population of platelets is instead replaced on average every 9.9 days. Now, the normal changes of aging of hematopoietic is aging is a universal phenomenon that affects all normal cells, tissues, organ systems, and organisms. Accordingly, the bone marrow undergoes changes with age. Age-related hematologic changes are reflected by a decline in bone marrow cellularity, an increased risk of myeloproliferative disease, and anemia, and a declining adaptive immunity.
So hello guys, my name is Samantha Lotulis Esmedrosa and I'll be discussing with you the hematopoietic system. So how the changes of one body system interacts or affect other physiological systems. Hematopoietic system includes organs and tissues such as the bone marrow, liver, and spleen. The hematopoietic system is found in the bone marrow. Hematopoietic stem cells renew themselves automatically every 40 weeks to maintain their numbers and levels to produce a sufficient balance of immature progenitors that migrate to other areas of the body to mature into erythroid cells, lymphocytes, myeloid cells, and megakaryocytes. Angiotensin-converting enzyme which is important in heart functioning, is a marker for the presence and level of hematopoietic stem cells. So the hematopoietic stem cells ensure a balanced production of all blood cells throughout life. So as they age, um, HSCs or the hematopoietic stem cells gradually lose their self-renewal and regenerate potential, whereas the occurrence of cellular derailment strongly increases. So as hematopoietic stem cells generate all cells of the hematopoietic system, age-associated changes in HSCs may underline many features of the aged hematopoietic system. So age-related epigenetic dysregulation leads to aberrant gene expression that may contribute to malignant transformation and emergence of myeloid leukemia, which is commonly associated with aging. So some blood disorders can affect healthy blood cells in the blood even when the hematopoiesis occurs. So for example, cancers of the white blood cells such as leukemia and lymphoma can alter the number of white blood cells in the bloodstream. Uh, Tumors in hematopoietic tissues that produces blood cells such as bone marrow can affect blood cell counts. Uh, the aging process can increase the amount of fat present in the bone marrow. This increase in fat can make it harder for the marrow to produce blood cells, and if the body needs additional blood cells due to an illness, the bone marrow is unable to stay ahead of this demand, which can cause anemia, which occurs when the blood lacks of hemoglobin from the red blood cells. So, age-related diseases and its effect to functional ability of older adults. So, similar to most organs and tissues, the hematopoietic system shows evidence of aging, which is associated with an increase in the development of aplastic anemia, myeloid malignancies, and decreased adaptive immune function. So, myeloid malignancies are clonal diseases of hematopoietic stem or progenitor. This includes fatigue, reduces of functional abilities, endurance, and overall health. So, my- myelodysplasia is a group of cancers in which immature blood cells in the bone marrow do not mature or become healthy blood cells. So, um, uh, its effect to older adults is cognitive impairment and fatigue. So, for the aplastic anemia, this is a rare blood condition happens when the blood marrow cannot produce enough new RBCs or red blood cells, and it is most often a result of an autoimmune disease that damages stem cells. And this occurs despite having normal iron levels. Fatigue, higher incidence of cardiovascular diseases, um, cognitive impairment, and decrease in physical performance and quality of lives are the effect of this aplastic anemia. So that's for my report. Thank you for listening.
Good day, ma'am. I am Kevin Giancarlo Manga, a nursing student from section N34. So today we're going to tackle about the lymphatic system. So the lymphatic system is an extensive network of vessels, nodes, and ducts that pass through almost all bodily tissues. And it allows the circulation of a fluid called lymph through the body in a similar way to blood. So lymphatic system is essential for fluid balance, absorption of fatty acids in the stomach, and the immune system regulation. So there are 500 to 600 trusted source lymph nodes throughout the body. So these nodes swell in response to infection due to a build-up of lymph fluid, bacteria, or other organisms and immune system cells. The lymphatic system is part of the immune system. It also maintains fluid balance and plays a role in absorbing fats and fat-soluble nutrients. The lymphatic system is important for the optimal functioning of our general and specific immune response. So, the lymphatic function is to maintain fluid level in our body tissues by removing all fluids that leak out of our blood vessels. The lymphatic system has three main functions. So first we have a fluid balance. Second, we have the absorption. Third, the immune system. So the fluid balance, the lymphatic system returns excess fluid and proteins from tissues that cannot return to the blood vessels. The fluid often collects in the tiny spaces surrounding cells, known as the interstitial spaces. Small lymph capillaries connect these spaces to lymphatic system. Around 90% trusted source of the plasma that reaches tissues from an arterial blood capillaries returns through the venous capillaries and veins. So the remaining 10% travels through the lymphatic system. Disruptions of fluid processing can result trusted source in localized swelling known as the lymphedema. For the absorption, the lymphatic system plays a key role trusted source in intestinal function. It assists in transporting fat, fighting infections, and removing excess fluid. Part of the gut membrane in the small intestine contains tiny finger-like protrusions called villi. Each vellus contains tiny lymph capillaries known as lacteals. These absorb fats and fat-soluble vitamins to form a milky white fluid called chyle. The next is the immune system. The third function of lymph nodes is to defend the body trusted source from exposure to potentially hazardous microorganisms, such as infections. The body's first line of defense involves first the physical barriers such as the skin, toxic barriers such as the acidic contents of the stomach, friendly bacteria in the body. However, pathogens often do succeed in entering the body despite these defenses. In this case, the lymphatic system enables the immune system to respond appropriately. These are normal changes of aging. First, the brain and the central nervous system. Second, the arteries. Third is the skin.
Some 20 liters of plasma pass through the arteries, capillaries, and smaller arterial blood vessels in our body. About 17 liters are returned to circulation via veins after providing nourishment to the body cells and tissues and collecting their waste products. The remaining 3 liters enter our body tissues via capillaries. This extra fluid, now known as lymph, is collected by the lymphatic system from tissues in our body, and it moves along until it's ultimately returned to our bloodstream. Human aging is characterized by the series of disorders that affect all tissues. First is the dilatation of the lymphatic channels. Occurs in aged skin. To a certain extent, dilatation also occurs following an elastosis, regardless of age, also leading to a dilatation of the superficial capillaries. As aging progresses, a decrease in lymphatic vessels function and lymphatic flow is observed due to a significant reduction in pumping rates, including pump frequency, amplitude, and fractional lymph flow. Next is the decreased contractile pressure and pumping frequency. On a cellular level, aged lymphatic vessels have a decrease in the glycolex and looser cell-to-cell gap junctions, which can cause a leakier vessels. Next is we will talk about in resting phase. These changes of the lymphatic collectors can generate a low level of tissue edema. Analysis of thoracic duct segment in elderly showed that lymphatic tone was lower and accompanied by decreased amplitude of lymphatic contraction. This may be an indicator of weakening of muscle cells, causing a reduced ability to generate sufficient force to maintain the appropriate level of contractile tone and force in the lymphatic vessel. The resting phase also occurs due to aging. Next is the age-related disease and its effect to the functional ability of older adults. The aging process induces changes in the structure and function of lymphatic networks. Lymphatic-related disease is prevalent in elderly, such as lymphadenopathy, lymphedema, cancers of the lymphatic system. First is we will talk about lymphadenopathy. It is a term that refers to the swelling lymph nodes. Refers to nodes that are abnormal in either size, consistency, or number. It is caused by infection, inflammation, or cancer. Common infections that can cause enlarged lymph nodes include strep throat, monoculosis, HIV infection, and infected skin wounds. So there are various classifications of lymphadenopathy. As generalized, if lymph nodes are enlarged in two or more non-contagious areas. Effects to the functional ability of older adults. First is the swollen lymph nodes. It is the body's natural reaction to illness or infection. These lumps is soft and tender to the touch and may even hurt a little. The swelling in these pea or bean-sized lymph nodes are one of the natural reaction. Then, the lymphatic vessels or LV is become leaky with the age. Next is difficulty in speaking because of nodes in the neck, and it may lead to cancer or dysfunctional immunity, which may lead to significant morbidity and mortality. Next is difficulty concentrating because of pain that can be sign of inflammation. Then, compression of blood vessels leading to an increased risk of blood clot. Then, obstruction of lymphatic drainage from a part of the body. According to this study, patients 40 years of age and older with unexplained lymphadenopathy have about a 4% risk of cancer versus a 0.4% risk in patients younger than age 40. Then, we will talk about lymphedema, also known as swelling or accumulation of fluid. It refers to the tissue swelling caused by an accumulation of protein-rich fluid that is usually drained through the body's lymphatic system. It is most commonly affects the arms or legs, can also occur in the chest wall, abdomen, neck, or the genitals. It's also the results from the blockage in the lymphatic system caused by scar tissue from damaged lymph vessels or the nodes. It can be caused by a cancer treatments that remove or damage your lymph nodes. Effects to the functional ability of older adults. Any type of problem that blocks the drainage of lymph fluid can cause lymphedema. Severe cases of lymphedema can affect the ability to move the affected lymph. It is restricted range of motion. So the person that have lymphedema might be having a hard time walking or moving because lymphedema can be very mild or quite painful, disfiguring, and disabling. Next is increase the risk of skin infection and sepsis. It can hardening and thickening of the skin. It is also risk for potentially life-threatening deep skin infections. Example, the cellulitis. It is the trough fluid provides fertile ground for germs, and the smallest injury can be an entry point for the infection. Then it can lead to skin changes and breakdown. Swelling part all of the arm or leg, including fingers or toes. The people with lymphedema could be achy or have hardened skin in the affected area. It resembles the skin of an elephant. Then is the cancers of the lymphatic system. Lymphoma is a cancer of the lymph nodes and occurs when lymphocytes grow and multiply uncontrollably. It begins when healthy cells change and grow out of control that may form a tumor and spread to other parts of the body. So males are slightly more likely to develop lymphoma than females. Then, the person with lymphoma may feel shortness of breath and easily get tired, then helplessness and loss of control. They feel passive in their lives. Then the patient may feel fear because of unfamiliar and threat to his or her physical and emotional well-being. Then, he or she will be feel angry because of the disruption to life and future plans. Most of them often question why lymphoma has happened to them. So the lymphoma has two main subtypes, the Hodgkin lymphoma and the non-Hodgkin lymphoma. The Hodgkin lymphoma, formerly called Hodgkin disease, Isthmus commonly affects lymph nodes in the neck or the area between the lungs and behind the breastbone. While the non-Hodgkin is the general category of lymphoma, the white blood cells lymphocyte grows abnormally. The non-Hodgkin lymphoma can weaken the immune system, and it is also the common complication. It has also risk of getting certain conditions like heart disease and lung disease. So I guess that could be all.